Hi, we're out on the range today, so please bear with gunfire you hear in the background. Now, recently I did a presentation comparing the Ruger LCP to the Ruger LC9, and that was intended to be the first in a series of presentations comparing concealed carry types of .380s to concealed carry types of 9mm. So today, for episode 2, I thought it would be apropos to compare the Ruger LCP2 to the Ruger LC9 Pro. Now, the first thing you might ask is, what are the differences between these and their predecessors? Okay, well, let me go through some of those. There's a lot of differences, but let me cover what I think are the top 3 differences between the LCP and the LCP2. First is the addition of this trigger-mounted safety similar to what a Glock has. Secondly, the LCP2 has much bigger, higher visibility sights. Now, the two of those things are supposed to give you more accuracy when you shoot it. Well, we'll put that to the test in a minute. And the third big difference is, on the LCP2, the slide will lock back after the last shot. On an LCP, it won't. Now, as far as the LC9 Pro, it's kind of the opposite. The main differences are what's not here. Now, the first thing is this trigger-mounted safety. But the big difference is the absence of a conventional manual safety that you would have seen on the LC9. Second is the absence of the loaded chamber indicator. Now, there is a notch here where I can look and see the brass in the chamber, but the stick-up loaded chamber indicator is no longer there. There's also the difference of the absence of a magazine safety. On an LC9, if you take the magazine out, it will not fire the round in the chamber. On the LC9 Pro, it will. So there are quite a few differences between these two and their predecessors. But as far as how they shoot, let's shoot them both side by side and see how they do. First, let's look at the accuracy of these two guns. Now, the FBI has been telling us for decades that the mean average distance for a lethal confrontation is 7 yards. Well, to push that just a little bit, I've got 2 targets set up at 10 yards. And I'll shoot the target on your left with the LCP2 and then the target on your right with the LC9 Pro, and we'll compare the results. And now we'll try the LC9. Let's take a closer look. So how'd we do? Well, you can see the results of the LCP2 on your left and the LC9 Pro on your right. Now, I had one flyer with the LC9 Pro, but that was just me. So is one better than the other? You be the judge. Now, when it comes to the trigger pulls of these, they're supposed to be significantly improved over their predecessors. I was skeptical, to say the least, on that point. But now that I'm firing these, I'm convinced the trigger pull is delivering better performance. Even in the fading light we're having today, the much higher visibility sights of the LCP2 are a big improvement over its predecessor. And even if you can argue which one of these is more accurate than the other, I think we'd all have to agree that both are delivering plenty of accuracy for their intended purpose. Now, what about the power of these two guns? Well, it's axiomatic that 9mm is more powerful than .380 ACP. However, when you read the ballistics charts, you got to remember that those numbers you're seeing were often arrived at with 4.5 or 5-inch barrels, not the 3-inch barreled guns that I'm working with here today. Also, more power does not automatically mean more effectiveness. So let's see if we can do something to measure the effectiveness of these two cartridges out of these two guns. Now, for those of you who haven't seen this before, this is what I call the meat target. It's pork chops to simulate a pectoral muscle, then pork ribs, then this bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, then more pork ribs, and then behind that, as always, the high-tech fleece bullet stop. And I'm not going to cover it with 4 layers of denim, but I will cover it with 4 layers of t-shirt. Now, the ammunition I'm going to use today is Sig Sauer Elite Performance ammunition. For 380, that's a 90 grain jacketed hollow point, and for 9mm, it's a 115 grain jacketed hollow point. And I'm going to start with using the LCP. And I'll go back 7 yards, we'll shoot the meat target, and then we'll see what kind of results we get. And as you can see, one of the bullets didn't expand, but the other 4 expanded very well. Only one lost its jacket. So the expansion on that 380 ammo looks pretty good. And all 5 of those bullets achieved 100% penetration, and they were all 5 stopped by the first layer of fleece. So even though they went clear through, they didn't have much power after they did, reducing the potential for collateral damage. But let's see what kind of damage we got to the meat target. Well, to our ribs on the front, a couple of the bullets hit the ribs and broke them. Our orange lung tissue is just chewed up. Lots of damage there. And of course, all the bullets went through the ribs on the back. And none of the bullets actually hit a rib. But we still got 100% penetration. Now, let's try the 9mm version of that ammo and see how it compares. And again, we can see that the expansion of this Sig Sauer ammunition is very good. And the 9mm ammo, just like the 380, all the bullets achieved 100% penetration, and they were all stopped by the first layer of fleece. You'll notice I only had 4 bullets, even though I fired 5 shots. That's because I dropped one on the ground and couldn't find it. But let's see what kind of damage it did to the meat target. Again, on the front, where they hit the ribs, broke them. Our orange lung tissue is just pulverized. It's really hard to determine, did the 9 do more damage than the 380? Just looking at it, I'd say it did more, but very little more. But there's a couple other things about the comparison of these two guns that I want to cover, and I'll get this very briefly. Partially because I've covered this before, and partially because we're losing light. One of them is the idea of magazine capacity. The LCP2 has a 6-shot magazine, and the LCP9 has a 7-shot magazine. And you can argue all day, is the 7-shot really an advantage over the 6-shot magazine? The only thing I could tell you on that is that accurate statistics as to how many shots someone fires in a citizen-involved shooting are very hard to get. But from those things that I do consider accurate and what I have been able to piece together, numbers like 3, 4, 5 shots seem to be very common. So the 6+1 that you'll have in the LCP2 will probably be enough. And of course you can always carry an extra magazine. But do I really think there would be times that a 7th shot could be an advantage over a 6-shot magazine? Not very often, but yeah, occasionally. And really the only one that can decide that for you is you. Now there's one other point I want to make about these two guns. Now the light is really fading on us, so please bear with me. There's one more point I want to make, and I've covered this before, so I'm going to hit this point today really briefly. The LC9 Pro and the LCP are both small guns, but there's no question the LCP2 is smaller, and that comes into play in the paramount importance of the subject of program compliance, or what my friend Kentucky Patriot calls consistent carry. Depending on who you are and what you're doing and how you dress, you might find that very often the LC9 is plenty small to be concealable, but not all the time. When I put these two in the pockets of my jacket, you can see that the LCP2 is easily concealed and the LC9 Pro is visible. And the reality is there's going to be times when you can have the LCP2 with you when this gun got left at home. And that is a big thing. So, as always, don't try this at home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching the LCP2 versus LC9 Pro video.